Lesson 86, Video Part 1. All right, so please open your textbook to Lesson 86 and find Part 1. Pause the video now if you still need to get that already. You have, looks like 5 problems there for you to work on. Some of these problems divide by 10 with an exponent. Some problems multiply by 10 with an exponent. Read problem A. 4 6/10 times 10 to the third power. So you have 4 6/10 times 10 to the third. Now read problem B. 4 6/10 divided by 10 to the third power. So this is A, this is B. Same numbers, different type of equation. So, as you probably already know what we're doing is we're moving the decimal. Here we need to move the decimal, and here we need to move the decimal. How many times do we need to move it? Well, we look at the power of we look at our exponent to the 10. So how many times would we need to move the decimal here? 3. How many times would we need to move the decimal here? 3 again, because it's to the third power. So, here's the trick though. When you're multiplying a decimal by this exponent, you move the decimal to the right. Decimal, okay? When you're dividing, you're moving it to the left. So you're going to get 2 different answers by this equation. Here you multiply, here you divide. So, for problem A, we're going to be moving the decimal to the right. How many places? 3. So, this is going to go from 4 6/10. You're going to go 1, 2, 3. So your new number? Because your decimal will be right there. 4,600. Now for this one, 4 6/10, moving it to the left now because we're dividing. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Add your decimal and your zeros. Zeros have to go in those little bloops that you do right there because they're placeholders. Otherwise, it's a totally different number if you don't put those in. That would be 4,600s rather than, let's see, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s place. So, that's how this one should look. Look at this though. 2 zeros, 2 zeros. Decimal here, decimal there. So, that's A and B. I want you to do C, D, and E on your own. Pause the video now and do them. When you're ready, resume the video and check your work. All right, so the answers to C, D, and E C, D, and E. Here are your answers. Now I hope that you didn't just write these down, so you should be showing your work when you're doing these on your own. I should see you moving the decimal, writing out the equation, setting it up like we always do in our books. I do check for that when you're turning in your work online. All right, now find part 2 in your textbook. You have 3 story problems there. Listen closely. To work these problems, you'll divide by a fraction. Problem A. A farmer has 8/3 quarts of honey. He wants to put that honey in jars that each hold 2/3 of a quart. How many jars will he be able to fill? Write the problem you'll work, then stop. Do that now. All right, everybody read the problem. Ready? 8/3 divided by 2/3? Yes, 8/3 divided by 2/3. Now work that problem. Write the answer as a number and a unit name. So, what's the whole number in the answer? Pause the video. 4. What's the unit name? Pause the video. Jars. Yes, he could fill 4 jars. All right, problem B. Another farmer has 9/4 quarts of honey. He wants to fill jars that each hold 2/3 quart. How many jars will he fill? The answer to this problem is a mixed number. The last jar will not be filled to the top. Key part of that. Only a fraction of the jar will be filled. Work the problem. Remember the unit name in the answer. So pause the video and do that now. All right, let's check our work. So we knew in problem B, another farmer has 9/4 quarts of honey. Quarts of honey, as we know. And he wants to fill the jars that each hold 2/3 of a quart. So I'm going to be dividing that by 2/3. I'll erase that Q so it's a little bit simpler. Okay, there's my equation. How do I solve this? Well, I turn this into its reciprocal. That stays the same. So, what is 9 times 3? 27. And 4 times 2 is 8. What is that? It's a top-heavy fraction. Now notice, there's more than one in here this time. 8/8 can go in there multiple times. Because what you can do is do 8 divided by 27. What's the closest thing you can get to? 7, 24. Because 8 divided by 3 is 24. So I know it can go in there 3 times. 8 can go into 27 3 times. What's my remainder? 3. Denominator stays the same. And labeling my answer. If that's confusing, watch this. Here's my answer, 27/8, top heavy. So if you do it like this, 8 divided by 27, what's the answer? 3, because 8 times 3 is 24. What's left over? 3. Hopefully you see where I'm going with this. My remainder, 3. Denominator, always the same as what you divide by. Boom. Same thing. Jars. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. It's the same thing that we've been doing all year, just looking at it a new way. It's a crazy, awesome thing about math. All right, so now let's go with the next thing. So, is our remainder jar, is it more or less than half? It's less than half filled, right? Because it would be 4/8 would be half. It's only 3/8, so it's less than half. All right, now let's do problem C. Another farmer has 8 quarts of honey. She wants to fill jars that each hold 2/3 quart. How many jars will she fill? Write the problem you'll work, then stop. So, pause the video and work this problem. All right, here we go. So here's our equation, 8 divided by 2/3. So we know that this is the same as being over 1. And we know when we are dividing, we have to multiply by its reciprocal. Eight times 3, 24. 1 times 2, 2. So, what can I do there? Just like so. 2 divided by 24, 12. just like that. All right, now please find part 3 in your textbook. So part 3 in your textbook. Read problem A. Ready? All right. T times the quantity 15 divided by 3. I'll write that up on the board. T times the quantity. Remember, if it's whatever's on the outside next to a parentheses, that means times. We just don't need to put the symbol in there because we already know that, right? Don't need that in there anymore. Divided by 3. I'll say it again. T times the quantity, in parentheses, 15 divided by 3. So, copy the problem and work it. Remember, first show the problem with the number in place of the letter, then work the problem. So, for problem A, it says T equals 10. First step. So pause the video, work the problem on your own. All right, so what is 15 divided by 3? 5. And 10 times 5, 50. Make sure you're boxing in your answers so I know where to look when you're turning in your work. Write slow and neat. I need to be able to read it and to see your steps clearly. All right, so work the rest of the problems in part 3. Pause the video now and do them. All right, so let's do the next one just for a refresher. We'll do 8 times the quantity, 1/5 plus 3/5. So, here's problem B, because it told us R equals 1/5. So I'm going to add my fractions together. So what's the quantity inside the parentheses? 4/5. What did you multiply 4/5 by? 8. And as we know, that would be 8 over 1. So what did you get? 32 over 5. And what is 32/5? We're not done. Divide it. 5 divided by 32. 5 can go into 30, we know. 6 times, because 6 times 5 is 30. What's left over? 2. Denominator, 5, because it's what we divide by, like we've always been doing. There's your answer. What's our answer? 6 2/5. Box it in. All right. So, problem C. And D, I'm just going to write the answers. Make sure when you're turning in your work that you're actually showing me what you did. So, C and D is 5, and D, 120. All right, so let's move on. Part 4 in your textbook. Pause the video to get there. All right, you're going to write 2 equations for each sentence. Read sentence A. Pause the video. 2 nights of the men were sleeping. Write the equation for the men who are sleeping and the equation for men who are awake. So you're writing 2 equations, one for the people that were sleeping, the men sleeping, and the men awake. So how do we do this? Well, it says 2 nights of the men were sleeping. So 2 nights, M equals sleeping. And so now I want to know the fraction of men that were awake. Well, if my fraction is 2 nights, 1 whole, or all the men together, would be 9 over 9. So what is my fraction that I don't have, or what am I missing up here to make it 9 over 9? 7. 7 nights of the men were awake, because altogether I have 9 over 9. All right, problem B. 15 of the girls were eating. So we know 15 19ths. So 15 out of the 19 girls were, remember when you see the word were, that usually means equals. What were they doing? Eating. So, 15 out of 19. So I know I have 19 girls in all. Well, if I have 15 right now, how many does it take to get to 19? 4. 4 of the 19 girls were not eating. Maybe they already ate, maybe they were just full. I don't know. All right, problem C. 3/16 of the computers were used. So, used, the others could be new. Tell me how many were new. Pause the video. 13 out of 16. So all you're doing right now is just writing out these equations. And D, 10/11 of the papers were blank. Of the papers were blank. So how many of the papers were not blank? 1. One person not doing their work. All right. So, let me check the time. We will stop there. Please go to video 2 for the second part of lesson 86.